From Northeast State Studios in Blountville, Tennessee, this is Views of the SEC. And welcome to Views of the SEC. Trey Adams alongside Adam Benefiel, where we are talking all SEC football. It was a great week of college football. Week 3 went as expected. Alabama comes back down from 21 to beat Ole Miss in a very wild game. LSU gets a much-needed victory against Mississippi State in the return of Leonard Fournette. Texas A&M rises to 3-0 after capitalizing on Auburn mistakes, and Georgia comes back to win against Missouri after Jacob Eason engineers a masterful game-winning drive, 28-27. Adam, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk. How about Alabama? Wow.
Well, I mean, it pretty much unfolded a lot in the way that I thought it was going to last week. While at this time I don't think that they're the best team in the country, I think that they're the only SEC team that has a chance to win the championship. Ole Miss put up a heck of a fight. I mean, playing at home, they got off to a quick start, then it kind of went back and forth. Some defense was going on. They were playing some good defense, but they put themselves in a great position to have a chance to win. And then what really bothered me about that game, Hugh Freeze, was just before the half when they got the ball back after Alabama scored with 2 minutes. You know, they run a up-tempo, passing based offense, and they ran the ball 3 times, punted it back. And that punt return for a touchdown to close it to a 7-point game was key because Alabama was getting the ball back after halftime, and so that pretty much almost single-handedly ruined everything that you had done in the first half.
I was looking at updates from the score, saw Ole Miss was up 24-7, and I was very surprised. I was thinking this is going to be 3 in a row. The Rebels are really going to do this again, and college football is once again going to be shaken up. But how about Alabama? Their resiliency to come down from 21 to make a huge comeback and win in a very hostile environment at Oxford. What a job well done. Let's talk about LSU. Leonard Fournette comes back, helps them, gets a big victory. LSU right now, they needed that victory really bad.
Absolutely. It got them back on track. They were kind of scuffling a bit after the opening game against Wisconsin. But being able to, kind of put the wood to a lesser team kind of got LSU back on track because they're not a team that really plays well with adversity. They like to play out in front, play power football, and kind of overmatch the other team. And getting up early on Mississippi State kind of got them back into their routine and the way they like to play.
How about the Aggies? 3-0.
My heart's still beating fast from Saturday. It's funny because since A&M has been in the SEC, and honestly for the few years before that, it's been a while since A&M has been able to rely on the defense. The last time that they had even a serviceable defense was Johnny Manziel's freshman year when they went 11-2. But for years back in the old Southwest Conference, A&M was known for their defense. Like, that's how they won. They were essentially LSU and Alabama before LSU and Alabama. They didn't reach the heights that those programs have, but that's the style that they played. And for the first time since I was a kid, I think you can say that A&M's defense is better than their offense.
Now that they're 3-0, are you a believer that maybe they can play a part in making the SEC West very interesting?
I'm going to withhold judgment on that because battered Aggie syndrome is a real thing. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and it will go wrong in the most excruciating way possible.
Kind of like the volunteer syndrome. I know all the pain about that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty similar. Obviously there's a lot of maroon Kool-Aid being drunk right now by a lot of A&M fans, but I'm kind of holding off because so far they're following the mantra from the past few seasons. Start off hot, get ranked into the top 10, which they were released in the AP poll at number 10 this week, and then fizzle out and fade down the stretch. So I'm withholding a little bit, but I like the way that they're playing. This is a much different team from years past.
And how about Georgia? Jacob Eason comes back, shows the maturity of a veteran quarterback, leads the Bulldogs down the field with a huge drive to beat the Missouri Tigers 28-27. Real quick, just give me your thoughts on that.
that 4th and 10 throw was so nails. To be a true freshman and come in and play on the road. I mean, granted it is Missouri, but you still have to make the throw. And to stand in there, stand in that pocket and face the rush and just deliver a perfect ball down the seam for a game-winning touchdown, having to come back, that kid's going to be a stud.
Yeah. I mean, that was huge for Georgia. And so the SEC Player of the Week this week was Charles Burris, a defensive tackle for Missouri. Charles had an incredible performance and played a major role in a near upset of Georgia on Saturday. He earned 7 total tackles, 4 for a loss, and 3 sacks while playing a huge part in stopping running back Nick Chubb. He only had 63 yards rushing on the ground and applied immense pressure on freshman quarterback Jacob Eason. So now we move to the second part of the show, which is the SEC Game of the Week. And I am preparing myself for this game accordingly. I might not be heard after Saturday. Florida at Tennessee. College game day will be there. CBS 3:30 kickoff. Tennessee, 11-game losing streak. They've lost the last 2 games by a combined 2 points. This is without a doubt the biggest game of Butch Jones's career. This is one of the biggest games in Tennessee history. They need this more than anything. And this is also a major game in the SEC East.
Correct.
And could be a deciding factor on who represents the East come December.
Sure. I don't think I could have said it any better than you did. This is a massive game. Like I said last week, I was really high on Tennessee after their performance against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech played well this last Saturday. Tennessee, not so much. I don't know if Tennessee's kind of the team that plays to their competition. If you're a worse team, they'll kind of keep you around. If you're a better team, they all focus and put everything together. I really don't know what's going to happen. It's like you said, it's 11-game losing streak. Florida's looked really good this year. It very well could be 12, but I'll never count out a team that has the talent level that Tennessee does. The only thing that concerns me is their inability to consistently put it together.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Florida's defense is what is a very scary thing if you're Tennessee, because they have a pro secondary. They have a very good defensive line. So does Tennessee, but at the same time, both offensive lines are shaky. So it's going to be a battle of whose offense gets luckier. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and especially after the injury to Luke Del Rio. I mean, that really kind of evens the playing field, because so far throughout the season, I think you'd have to say that Florida has a better defense, and what Tennessee was banking on was them having a better offense. Mm-hmm. But Florida so far has, until the injury, has had a pretty competent offense, at least for Florida's sake, a very competent offense. Mm-hmm. And so that, I think, caused a lot of trepidation for a lot of teams, like looking forward in the season whenever they had to play Florida. But you never like seeing a player get hurt. But I mean, for Tennessee's sake, that's probably some of the best news that they had, especially considering some of the bad news that they've had.
Mm-hmm. I will say this, though. Watching Tennessee and Florida play, Florida has beat them with a backup quarterback, so this could end up being Tennessee's worst nightmare.
Right.
I mean, so we talk about injuries to Luke Del Rio. He's out for a couple weeks with a MCL sprain. Cameron Sutton went down with a broken ankle on Saturday. His career at Tennessee could be over. Darren Kirkland Jr. is questionable for Saturday. Jalen Reeves-Maybin was also hurt Saturday with a shoulder injury. Isn't 100%, but should be ready to go. A couple of notes. Martez Ivy, he got ejected last week, but he should be available to play. Austin Appleby is jumping in. He said it earlier this week that he's not going to be affected by Neyland. I mean, let me just say this. Neyland has not been a very tough place to play. In terms of crowd noise, it is one of the toughest places to play in the country. But in terms of home field advantage, there hasn't been a big victory that Tennessee's had in a very long time. So defending Neyland has been Tennessee's biggest issue. Would you agree with that?
Sure, absolutely. I actually think I can draw a lot of similarities between Tennessee and A&M in that respect. I mean, if you look at just overall atmosphere and crowd noise and environment of play, you'd have to look at Neyland and Kyle Field as two of the most imposing, fan experiences to play in front of. Unfortunately, throughout the past few years, both teams, whenever they played, have big games at home. I just don't think that they've been as good as the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Floridas, so on and so forth. And so while they haven't defended home field as well as they would like, I think it was more of a team versus team issue rather than a home field environment type issue. I do think that it is going to affect Austin Appleby. How much it will affect him, I don't know. But I mean, no one can honestly believe that you can walk out in front of 103,000 opposing fans and feel anything remotely normal. So
I just asked Baker Mayfield in the first half of last year. I mean, he absolutely was pressured, could not hear anything. Neyland is one of the toughest places to play, but in order for it to be a difficult place, you have to win there. And Tennessee needs to win as bad as anything. So we'll get right to the prediction. Adam, who you got?
I'm gonna throw a bone. I'm gonna extend an olive branch of good faith. I'm gonna take Tennessee 27-24
to end the streak.
Yep, end the streak.
I wish I could agree with you, but after last year, after the 28-27 loss, and after Florida's incredible comeback, I've got Florida going 12 in a row, 31-27. Unfortunately, I just I can't bring myself to pick Tennessee, especially after last year.
Well, it's been nice having this podcast with you.
I appreciate it, buddy.
I'll be rolling solo from now on.
All right, so we are moving on to the final part of the show. Score predictions. Conference play starts this week. Let's start with the number 1 team in the country, Alabama versus Kent State. Pretty easy game for Alabama.
Oh yeah, it'll probably be over by halftime. I'll take Alabama 41, Kent State 7.
41-7. I've got Alabama at 45-10. A pretty interesting game. Ole Miss versus Georgia. The Rebels coming off a devastating loss to Alabama. They need to get in the win column. Conference play starts against Georgia. Georgia starting off 3-0 after a big victory against Missouri. Who you got?
Well, I think Ole Miss is going to jump out to a big lead once again, but this time they're actually going to hold on to it. I'll take Ole Miss 35, Georgia 31.
I agree with you on that. I think Ole Miss will beat Georgia 28-14. Mississippi State versus UMass.
17-7 Mississippi State.
17-7. You know what? After South Alabama beat them, I'm not so sure that they can win many games, but I do have Mississippi State 13-7.
USA lives.
Missouri versus Delaware State. Who you got?
This actually may be closer than I want it to be, but I'll take Missouri 24-6.
Got Missouri at 31-3. I think after last week's game against Georgia, they are going to impose a big problem in the SEC East. They get a big win on Saturday. Western Kentucky versus Vanderbilt.
I'll take Western Kentucky 35, Vanderbilt 20.
I got Western Kentucky 38-28. Auburn versus LSU.
This may be for Gus Malzahn's job. He may be getting fired if he loses this game. So I think they're going to come out inspired, and I think Auburn's going to win 31-20.
Okay. I got him at 27-21. South Carolina versus Kentucky.
South Carolina 3, Kentucky 0.
And finally, Texas A&M versus Arkansas. Pretty much one of the biggest games of the week in the SEC. Who you got?
Well, it's been 2 years in a row that A&M's come back in the fourth quarter and forced overtime and then won in overtime. So I'm going to make it 3 straight years. I actually agree with you. I'm going to stick with your prediction. I'll take 38-31 A&M.
Okay. I got him at the same thing, overtime. So that does it for Views of the SEC. Thank you for tuning in today. For Adam Benefiel, I'm Trey Adams signing off. Goodbye, everybody.
This program is a presentation of the Communications Department of Northeast State Community College and is produced as part of the student learning experience. The content of this program is produced through student participation and does not necessarily reflect the opinions and views held by the school.
The music today was provided by Jason Shaw at audioaudix.com.